look at the stats. 5 out of the top 6 televised rated games on the WNBA this year all involve Caitlin Clark. The only one that doesn't was a second half of a doubleheader in which Caitlin Clark played the first game.
Only on SportsGrid.
8 playoff games at home for Boston in Beantown. They are 6-2 straight up.
The wild card, I would say, in this game is not necessarily, well, what are we going to get out of Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Brown, and certainly Tatum. It is Kristaps Porzingis to me, because we're not getting back a player that's like, hey, rotational guy. Like, remember when Derek Lively went down with the injury? He was playing well, but a young player, like a piece.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Garrett Cole is getting ready to come back, too. I guess this... Look, they've played great without him, but you're not going to say to Garrett Cole, look, don't come back. I mean, it's a ridiculous conversation to have.
They're not going to take any unnecessary chances. And look, they're at the point where they have a lead. They certainly are going to make the playoffs, I would say, barring some sort of complete collapse. And that's all it takes.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
If you're in the room, what are you doing with the Judge MVP number? Books are now 2-1, standalone favorite. What are you doing with the Judge number?
What do I do with the MVP? I let them bet Judge at what? Even money? Come on in. I mean, you have to acknowledge now that he's the guy.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Ferrall has taken over. Let's go. It's Ferrall. Coast to coast. Steaks, chicks, stacks. You and I are going to make a lot of money. It's Ferrall. Coast to coast.
It's Ferrall Coast to Coast in the biggest way possible right here on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. Great to have everybody with us on a Tuesday. Carver High in for Scotty. We've got Go for the Two, Joe Lisi coming up momentarily. Very, very big show today. Busy Tuesday indeed. We actually have a break tonight. No NBA Finals, no Stanley Cup Finals, but we will talk about both of those as they continue on. We have a full slate of baseball tonight. We have the U.S. Open this week at Pinehurst. We've got football news, as I believe this will be the final week of all these mandatory mini camps around the NFL, and lots of news surrounding a few different places we will get to today. Gabe Morency's with us in the first hour. As always today on C2C, Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News stops by for his weekly chat. Davis Maddock will be in on the Lion's Share today. We will get his place for tonight. Coach Young in the mix, as well as we have another off day from the NBA Finals, but lots of news with injuries to get to. And Smiley Kaufman, of course, the Smiley Show here on SportsGrid. He is at Pinehurst, site of the United States Open, which tees off on Thursday morning. We will talk to Smiley as we do every week. Get ready for this week's event, which is a big one, obviously, with all the heavy hitters down in North Carolina for the U.S. Open. Of course, every Tuesday and Wednesday here on Coast to Coast, you get the extended version of the very popular SportsGrid radio show, Carver and Lisi, which airs weeknights at 8 p.m. East on SportsGrid Radio, and that is with myself and the encyclopedia of college football, the one, the only. Go for the two, Joe Lisi. Hi, Joe.
Hi, Carver. You know that when we have these prestigious golf events, I'm locked and loaded. So really looking forward to the U.S. Open this week. I mean, nothing better. It's on the horizon. 2 days away, baby. This is it. I can't wait. Maybe a little Grillo. First round leader for Grillo.
You made it very clear last night on the radio that you don't have a lot that interest in the U.S. Open, which is okay, Joe. It's okay. I'm just going to remember. I'm going to remember, next around November, late November, as we're getting ready for all like the college football championship games, or maybe the week of Michigan, Ohio State. I'm going to try to complain about them, or maybe wedge in some golf. That's what I'll do at the end of the college football. This is one of the 4 biggest events in golf, Joe, and they are at Pinehurst, a place with a lot of history as we will have Smiley later, and me and him will chat about it. You're going to go Griot in the first round? Is that what you're going to do, Joe? Joe's already got plays lined up. Doesn't like the golf, but he's got plays because they got big numbers. So that's what gets Joe excited. Big numbers like Griot, 125 to 1 for first round leader. Right, Joe?
Yeah, he's 300 or 400 to 1 to win the whole thing. And then how about Malnati is in there? He's $150 to 1 for first round leader, I believe. And he's 600 to 1 to win it all. Those two hacks are something that, for me, is at least worth betting on. Now, that I can get excited about. Okay, you want to give me a 400, 600 to 1 shot? I could get all gassed up for that. But to me, I told you this before. Great event, I get it. But the only thing that changes, Carver, is the scenery. It's the course, Pinehurst. That's it. Other than that, it's the U.S. Open. It's the same golfers playing each and every week. Masters, PGA Championship.
Can I ask you a question?
Scheffler, him.
Can I ask you a question? And I was hoping you were going to do this again because you did this to me last night. You caught me.
I did.
I was frazzled. I came in late. I was hoping you were going to do this again to me today because here's what my response was going to be to that. You watch the NFL every Sunday, Joe?
Yes.
Do you watch the NFL every Sunday? Who do you watch? Yeah. Patrick Mahomes is there every Sunday, right? Lamar Jackson, the Bills, Josh Allen. You watch every week. Are those the same guys every week? They just play in different stadiums?
It's
Are
different.
Those the same guys every week?
Different
Are
matchups.
they the same guys every week?
No,
Are they
they're
same
not
guys
the same
every week?
guys. No, they're not. We saw some backup quarterbacks. P.J. Walker. Come on now, Josh Dobbs.
Well, then, okay, so to your point, so that's the week when some hack wins. That's when you get to go watch P.J. Walker play quarterback. Like, Joe, it's like your reasoning for it. It's the same guys. Of course it's the same guys. These are the stars of the game.
This early. I don't want to get you
here we go. We'll get plenty of U.S. Open. Now I'm going to force feed Joe some Tiger Woods video later on Coast to Coast. I'm going to force feed it now since Joe is so upset that the U.S. Open is this week. He cannot wait. He's got about, I think it's 82 days, Joe, maybe 78, between 78 and 82 days before he gets that college football kickoff. And that's all that's on Joe's mind right now, and understandably so. Here's what also is going on right now, Joe, not in 78 or 80 days, and that is the Stanley Cup Final Game 2 last night. In Florida, the Panthers now take a 2-0 lead in the series as they make the long trek back up to Edmonton, Alberta. Joe, me and you got through, I guess it was about the first two periods on the radio show before we watched the third separately last night. And it was a tight game again, but Florida got the big goal. They shut them down. I've held on for dear life with that under 5.5. I thought the Oilers were going to keep the goalie out for the whole 5 minutes after they let in the first empty netter. But, Joe, despite this being 2-0, I don't think this is as over as, let's say, I think the Celtic 2-0 is over. If you look at the two situations with the 2-0, I think I give Edmonton a little bit more chance down 2-0 than I do Dallas right now.
You see, I know that seems like the case, but I disagree. I think the hockey's over. And the reason why I say that is we watched that game last night. The fact that, Edmonton had, 6 goals with about 8 minutes left in the second period, 8 shots on goal. I mean, that is untypical of what Edmonton does, right? Florida completely shut them down. Even though they had some penalties, they staved them off. They fell behind 1-0. Bobrovsky played very well from the second period on, shut them down. That defense was stifling, and Edmonton never got into a rhythm. Outside the one goal that they scored in the first period, it never looked like the same old Oilers, and you put both games back to back. Shots on goal and actually opportunities, they've been completely shut down, Carver. And I understand about the Mavericks, they haven't looked good, but coming back home, laying 1.5, I still got to believe Luka and Kyrie could pull 1 or 2 games out to maybe even the series. I just think Edmonton's up against it. I don't think they're tough enough to go up against Florida.
We'll discuss, of course, some of the NBA too, Joe. They have another off night. They'll get back on the court tomorrow. Game number 3 in Dallas. There's been some injury stuff that's come out today, whether it be Porzingis with some rare leg injury that's got like 7 words long, and I'm not going to even attempt to pronounce right now. But he's day-to-day, and he said he's going to try as hard as he can to play tomorrow night. I don't think they necessarily need him, but that's the case. You found out that Luka had a pain-relieving shot for his chest, Joe, the thoracic issue that he's going through. And he played pretty well. He had 30-point triple-double. And he says he's going to be good to go tomorrow night as well. So we'll give you all the updated numbers. We have everybody playing in baseball tonight, Joe. After last night, we were hunting some overs. Some did not come through. You got that late night. You got that late grand slam in the Mariner game. I know that. What did you alt the Mariner game to? Wasn't it 10 you had that up to? And it started very slow. 9.5. But you probably had it with something else that didn't hit, right?
Probably. I haven't even checked the account yet, so that's...
haven't even looked. It could be something in there. Looked. Might not. Haven't even opened it up.
It's possible. It's possible. We have the market flying. We have FOMC on deck. We got everything on deck over the next couple of days. That takes a back seat until later tonight.
Yeah, indeed it does. So we'll have all the baseball. Everybody's in action. We'll look and see a lot of 7.5s too, which I know Joe always gets interested in the 7.5s in the baseball. Like I mentioned, we will do a couple things from the U.S. Open and some football, Joe. I've got for you today Robert Saleh talking about who's not at mandatory minicamp for the Jets this week. One name pretty surprising, one name not so surprising. We've got Malik Neighbors for you today, a little Dan Campbell. So we do have some football that we will mix in with Joe at some point. And I promise I won't wait until like 5 minutes left in the third hour.
I don't believe you.
To Joe. I'm saving the hot dog story, Joe, for the last 5 minutes at the end of the third hour. I'm going to save that for then. Ferrall Coast to Coast on a Tuesday. Carver High, Joe for Scotty. We're back after this.
Anyone that's been to a sporting event, the atmosphere before a game, I think Game Time Decisions has that same exact atmosphere. This is our arena. This is what we do. There is going to be an energy to Game Time Decisions that you will feel night in and night out. The excitement you get when you lock your bets in, when you're figuring out what you want to do, we can zone in on the biggest games each night. I want this to be the place that people come to before the games start so they feel as ready as possible to lock in their cards. We are going to hit every single one of those markets that you need to know about. We're going to go through every single thing, and I've got a great team behind me that's going to help me get the job done. There is not going to be a better place, I promise you, than Game Time Decisions to get that new information, react to it, and be able to then bet accordingly. We will have everything at our disposal, and we will use that to our advantage. I'm Kevin Walsh. Tune into Game Time Decisions from 6 to 8 p.m. Eastern on SportsGrid.
SportsGrid, your 24/7 sports wagering network. Fantasy sports today.
Be a guy that's really useful in your fantasy rotation? I think the answer is yes.
Game Time Decisions.
And guess what? I'm going to lose the bet because he's injured again.
Betting above the rim.
He's got a broke J. That's all there is to it. He's got no confidence in that jump shot.
My thing you've always heard me say on the network is you're either winning or you're rebuilding.
In-game live all access.
Wondering when that was going to happen, and the answer is it just did.
Sometimes you think the bigger guy will have the advantage. Well, if the little guy can move, Joe, it's hard to hit the little guy sometimes when you're a big boy, right?
In-game live, prime time.
4-1, I'm going to take a little flyer on Justin Rose.
In-game live, overtime.
As you sit here and listen, watch right now, you may want to consider placing that bet.
It's smarter to be on SportsGrid.
It's the BetMGM offer of the week. Get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. For all the games, all season long. Come out swinging with picks and parlays and turn any game into a must-watch. Download the BetMGM app, and it's on.
And we are back, Ferrall Coast to Coast here on a Tuesday. Carver High in for Scotty on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. Great to have everybody with us. Of course, Gabe Morency's with us every day here on C2C Sports Rage late night, weeknights at 10 p.m. East right here on the grid. Gabe, good to see you as always. I want to start with this. I'm going to bring this up with Joe later, and I've got the clip. I don't need the clip right now because you've seen it. And that's Sallow this morning with the Jets. Now, this is mandatory mini camp this week. It's the last thing, really, until these guys go away for a month and a half, and they start things for real, thank God. So everybody's supposed to be there. It's CBA mandated. It's part of the gig. He gets up at the microphone and says, we have 2 inexcused absences. And so obviously all the reporters look at him and go, oh, all right, what are you talking about? So then he goes, Hassan Reddick, who hasn't been to anything since they traded for him because he wants more money. And then he goes, and Aaron's not here. But I talked to him, and he had something really important to do, but it's still not excused, that it's not. Gabe, this guy's so lost. I don't know why they kept this guy after last year, but he turned something that is no problem whatsoever into a major story, all because he can't speak to the media.
And this has been a consistent problem with him. And I understand if you're a football coach, dealing with the media is something completely different out of your skill set. But at the same point in time, when you're in New York, of all places, as well, you're in freaking New York, and you're talking about Aaron Rodgers here, and/or Zach Wilson in the past, and the quarterback situation in the past. The amateur level in which he handles these statements, comments, radio interviews is just beyond comical. Going back to last year, remember when he was asked about the quarterback situation? I plead the fifth. Like, really? You're the head coach, and you're pleading like. He continuously makes stories out of something that really shouldn't be a story. Inexcused. So as we see, everybody, the initial reaction is, Aaron Rodgers didn't show up today and is just calling his own shots. And then we find out, Salah goes on to say, well, he had a prior commitment that was very important to him. So then it was excused. It wasn't an excuse. He told you. It's not like he didn't show up. As you stated, we all know why Reddick's not there. Reddick wants to get paid. There's no gray area with this. He's just unhappy. Aaron Rodgers had a prior commitment. I don't know. Is he having lunch with RFK talking about how they're going to lose the election? Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't know what he's doing right now, but it's none of my business. And to be honest, it's not the end of the world if he's not there today. Is it really? And, in June right now? But because Robert Salah handled it so poorly, here we are right now talking about it.
Yeah, it is truly amazing how some you would think after 3 years of being in that market and being the coach of that team and all the things that you've dealt with, that this stuff wouldn't happen anymore. But it was all his fault today. He's the one that caused all the problems.
No, he's learned nothing from dealing with the media. And if you think about this coaching staff, you have him, he's a defensive coordinator. Let's call it out for what it is, right? He's a defensive coordinator. He's been made a head coach. He doesn't have that head coach really mindset, as you see in these interviews. He's a football guy, but there's always distractions with this football team. And then we look, who's the offensive coordinator? Nate Hackett. Like, you have to wonder about the staff of this team. Like, Aaron Rodgers, and let's be real, Aaron Rodgers does run this football team, and he's taken 4 snaps for them in 2 years. And he's in complete control of this football team, right? I mean, Nate Hackett wouldn't be there unless it was for Aaron Rodgers. And, what happens if Aaron Rodgers gets hurt again? Then they're stuck with Nate Hackett again? Like, how long can this go on for? And to be honest, I don't want Aaron Rodgers to get hurt. For the good of football, for the good of the NFL, for the good, competition. Hopefully he plays, but I don't have a lot of confidence in him, to be honest with you, at this age, that he's going to last the full season, to be honest with you.
And I've seen a couple of houses, Gabe, move them from 9.5 to a flat 10 for the win total. And I think that's outrageous, to be quite honest with you. And obviously the under
it's a pretty big leap of faith.
The under was a lot easier last year when he got hurt the first game of the season. That made the under obviously kind of a slam dunk, but I'm going after it again, Gabe, because you know why? Something's going to go wrong, because it always goes wrong with them. That's just kind of the way that it is. They'll go 8. They'll go 8-9. They'll go 8-9. He'll miss a couple games or something. Or let's remember how old he is, Gabe, and that he didn't play last year, and that he wasn't good the year before that at the end of the year.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
So,
like, he can still throw a good spiral, but he wasn't a dominant quarterback. I mean, If you ask the Green Bay Packers right now, do you want Jordan Love or Aaron Rodgers? What do you think their answer is going to be?
Very easy.
Right?
Very
they saw
easy
this
answer.
coming, and there was the reason why. They said, all right, it's time to play Jordan Love now. And now here we are. We're 2 years removed from that, Carver, now for the Jets. We're 2 years removed from the Packers seeing, because let's be real. If the Packers thought Aaron Rodgers was so great, they would have kept him for another year or two, right? They would have placated him and went along with stuff, but they decided, no, it's not worth it anymore, right? Teams will put up with stuff if you're really good, but the Jets are putting up with a lot of stuff with Aaron Rodgers without getting a lot of results back. But to the Jets, bro, I think it matters to them if they're in the news and they sell jerseys. To be honest,
what he cares about. This is the second time the Packers got them on their aging star quarterback. Second time. They did it with Favre. Now they do it with Rodgers as well as he's going out the door. Gabe, we will come back and let's get into last night. They're going to make the long trip from South Florida back to Edmonton for game number 3 coming up on Thursday night. Tight game again. It just kind of wheels came off a little bit. Panthers took a lead and then they swallowed them up towards the end. Unders in both games. Very interesting, Gabe, as we get ready for game 3 coming up on Thursday, heading back to Alberta.
Yeah, we were lucky to get that under last night. It's rare that you'll see a coach pull the goalie that early. And I've seen it in a regular season game. Patrick Waugh did it out of anger once because the goalie was getting drilled with shots. And he said to everyone, he goes, "You're not helping him anyway, so I'm just going to take him out." Mike Keenan did the same thing once for like 8-9 minutes. That one in a Stanley Cup game. That was weird.
Comes to coast right after those.
Look at the stats. 5 out of the top 6 televised rated games on the WNBA this year all involve Caitlin Clark. The only one that doesn't was a second half of a doubleheader in which Caitlin Clark played the first game.
Only on SportsGrid.
8 playoff games at home for Boston in Beantown. They are 6-2 straight up.
The wild card, I would say, in this game is not necessarily, well, what are we going to get out of Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Brown, and certainly Tatum. It is Kristaps Porzingis to me because we're not getting back a player that's like, hey, rotational guy. Like, remember when Derek Lively went down with an injury? He was playing well, but a young player, like a piece.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Garrett Cole is getting ready to come back too. I guess look, they've played great without him, but you're not going to say to Garrett Cole, look, don't come back. I mean, it's a ridiculous conversation to have.
They're not going to take any unnecessary chances. And look, they're at the point where they have a lead. They certainly are going to make the playoffs, I would say, barring some sort of complete collapse. And that's all it takes.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
If you're in the room, what are you doing with the Judge MVP number? Books are now 2-1, standalone favorite. What are you doing with the Judge number?
What do I do with the MVP? I let them bet Judge at what? Even money? Come on in. I mean, you have to acknowledge now that he's the guy.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
We are back, Ferrall, coast to coast here on a Tuesday. Carver High in for Scotty on SportsGrid at SportsGrid Radio. Gabe Morency's with us, Sports Rage Late Night, weeknights 10 p.m. East, right here on the grid. All right, Gabe, so they'll go back to Edmonton now, 2-0, Florida, after the win last night. I was thinking about this earlier, and I kind of tossed it to Joe for a minute before. You have 2-0 in both series. Both the teams down 2-0 are going home. Who has a better shot in your mind, Dallas or Edmonton, to come back from down 2-0?
I think they're both going to lose the series, but I think they're both going to win game 3. And I would have to say, though, I think Dallas are more of a lock to win game 3. Like, I think Dallas will win back at home. Basketball is a little bit different. The tide will turn. The role players will be better. Dallas could be a lot better, right? Kyrie Irving, I don't think is going to go 0 for 5 or 0 for 3 from 3 on his home court. He's 0 for 8 in the series. The problem for the Edmonton Oilers is they're really not playing poorly, Mike, right? So it's a little bit demoralizing in that we're not playing bad. They're just they're better than we are. They're winning. The Panthers are just dominating in the corners. They're winning every loose battle. They're overwhelming the Edmonton defensemen. The Oilers are having a hard time getting pucks through. Like, let's just call it off what it is. The Oilers are rattled right now. I still think they're going to be able to win a couple of games, though. But I trust Dallas more. I have both these series to go over 5.5 games in a parlay, so I'm hoping that they both have a couple of wins in them. But if I had to bet this right now, I would say that both these series are going to end in 6 games. But I still do believe that Dallas and Edmonton have a couple of wins in them. And the fact is, series don't start until somebody loses on their home court, on their home ice, etc. The similarities, though, Mike, it's interesting. Boston weren't in the finals last year, but Boston have been here a lot, right? They have been in the finals. They've been in every damn Eastern Conference championship. This has been a long time coming for this team. They've learned a lot of lessons along the way, and it's sort of showing in the way they're playing right now. And the Florida Panthers as well. And the Panthers are playing better than I thought they would even. That's where I was wrong with this. The Panthers, I got to tip my cap to them. I'm like, wow. The Panthers have raised it up a notch, even more so now in the Stanley Cup final. And let's give a lot of credit to Paul Maurice, the head coach. Kachuk has been, the face of the team and doing a lot of interviews. And he's been talking about, last year they were kind of happy to be in the finals. And this year they understand, you need to win every, and he said, you need to win every play. He goes, we need to win every practice, every meal, everything we do, every workout. Maurice stresses, you need to be your best. And that was a big Harbaugh thing last year, right? Some people think, what do you mean you need to win your diet, right? Win your sleep. And Harbaugh used to always talk about that, with everybody. What did you eat today? How many hours did you sleep, right? Did you go all out in practice? Did you win every one-on-one battle in practice? And it all adds up to the result in the game, and the Panthers are doing it right now. But with that being stated, I got a nice little parlay here. Dallas Mavericks to win game 3, Oilers to win game 3, plus 207.
I like it. There you go, because I'm with you. I do think that both of those teams will win game 3 at home with the series here at 2-0. We got baseball tonight, Gabe. Really the only thing on the menu for us in terms of live stuff. But the good news is everyone's playing. It's Tuesday night, 15 games in MLB.
Yeah, we got an interesting spot here with the Baltimore Orioles being a live dog. You're talking about a very good baseball team. I know that they don't have the pitching advantage here, but nevertheless, I'm getting the Baltimore Orioles at home at plus 110 against the Atlanta Braves. A shorthanded Atlanta Braves baseball team at that. With all due respect to Max Fried, I'm going to take the Baltimore Orioles here. One of the most profitable teams in baseball this year to bet on are actually the Washington Nationals. Somewhat of a surprise. The Nationals, you're up 10 units if you've been betting on the Nats every game this year. Small dogs tonight. I'll take the Nationals at minus 105 in Detroit. I'm going to ride the Paul Skeens train here, Carver. His strikeouts are 7.5, but his plus money, it's plus 110. He's gone over 7.5 strikeouts in 3 of his last 4 starts. So he had 9 against, he's had 9, 8, and 11. There's been a 7 sprinkled in there. So I think it's manageable at 7.5. I mean, especially at plus money. So I'm going to take Skeens, and I'll take the Pirates to win this game at minus 135 as well. No reason why not to keep on riding the Yankees tonight. I like a lot of baseball tonight.
I was on the Skeens game where he didn't get over the 7.5. That was the only time I played
7. That was the one he got
the
to 7.
The one when he got to 7, and of course I didn't catch it, and he's gone over every single time. Gabe, we'll see you tonight. Sports Rage Late Night here on the Grid. Coast to Coast, back after this.
Look at the stats. 5 out of the top 6 televised rated games on the WNBA this year all involve Caitlin Clark. The only one that doesn't was a second half of a doubleheader in which Caitlin Clark played the first game.
Only on SportsGrid.
8 playoff games at home for Boston in Beantown. They are 6-2 straight up.
The wild card, I would say, in this game is not necessarily, well, what are we going to get out of Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Brown, and certainly Tatum. It is Kristaps Porzingis to me, because we're not getting back a player that's like, hey, rotational guy. Like, remember when Derek Lively went down with an injury? He was playing well, but a young player, like a piece.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Garrett Cole is getting ready to come back too. I guess this. Look, they've played great without him, but you're not going to say to Garrett Cole, "Look, don't come back." I mean, it's a ridiculous conversation to have.
They're not going to take any unnecessary chances. And look, they're at the point where they have a lead. They certainly are going to make the playoffs, I would say, barring some sort of complete collapse. And that's all it takes.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
If you're in the room, what are you doing with the Judge MVP number? Books are now 2-1, standalone favorite. What are you doing with the Judge number?
What do I do with the MVP? I let them bet Judge at what? Even money? Come on in. I mean, you have to acknowledge now that he's the guy.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
We are back, Ferrall, coast to coast, here on a Tuesday. Carver High in for Scotty on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. Great to have everybody with us here today. Of course, Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News is with us every week here on C2C, and it's always great to have him with us. Mike, good to see you as always, my man. A lot to do today. Why don't we start with Hurley and UConn and the Lakers and that whole drama that played out fairly quickly. I mean, this was something that from Thursday went to he's very interested. The Lakers want him to be the coach. He's going to fly out there and meet with them to then, over really a 48-hour span, 72-hour span. Nope, he's not going. He's going to stay in stores and be the UConn coach and go for 3 in a row. Your thoughts on all the Hurley stuff from the past few days?
Yeah, I thought it was an interesting thought experiment in a way, because this is the first great coach that was offered an NBA job in the new era. In the era of NIL and the era of House versus the NCAA, where it's likely that teams, programs, athletic departments, however you want to classify it, will be able to share revenue with their athletes. And the UConn is a very interesting subject in that, because they have a football program that is not a member of a major conference and therefore not generating a ton of revenue. And so it's interesting how they handle that 22 million figure that exists for the elite programs. And it's certainly out there for anybody else that wants to do it. But what will UConn do relative to its basketball program, its women's basketball program, and its football program? I think that's a really interesting debate for them. But he looked at all that and decided that UConn was still the place. And he'll make less money at UConn, even if he gets the massive raise that's been suggested. He'll make significantly less money than he would have as the Lakers coach. So the fact that he decided to stay, interesting in that respect. And then, of course, there were the dramatic, let's call it dramatic reactions to the initial word that he might leave college basketball, and how many people talked about how horrific it would be for the college game. I didn't agree with that. I think that he's fantastic, but I think that we've seen fantastic coaches replaced before. and the game continues on. But now that he stayed, I'm not seeing anybody start to shake the pom-poms and say, well, college basketball quite obviously is in a massive power position because it stared down the NBA and kept its top coach.
Yeah, I mean, Mike, we talked about this last week. Like, we've seen the big college coach leave, and the game has always been there. And guess what else happens? Almost 90% of the time, they all come back. Whether it's Pitino, whether it's Saban, if you want to go into football, you go through the names of all these guys. Calipari, a huge college coach, dips their toe in the water. They try it. I mean, geez, Beilein left a great situation in Michigan to go to Cleveland. That lasted a year and a half, and he was out of there. Mike, I think eventually Dan's going to do this, right? Because he has talked about this even before this whole thing came up, that eventually he wants to try the NBA. That situation will come, but there would have been a job waiting for him, Mike, if that didn't go well for 2 or 3 years when he was done.
Yeah, and he'd had quite a bag. If that had happened, say, in 3 years, he probably still would have gotten, I think, another $40 million. So, yeah, I mean, I think that that's something that set up Rick Pitino for a pretty good life over the last 25 years when he left Boston with I think, $50 million, something like that. That serves you pretty well. He'll still make a lot of money. Not, like I said, not as much as he would have, but he'll still make a lot, and he'll still do a fabulous job because he's a terrific coach. And honestly, one of the things that I wrote about when he did decide to stay was what a remarkable record he has of player development. He's had 4 players drafted in the last 2 drafts combined. 4 players, 2 first, 2 second. And none of those players was a top 50 prospect when they walked in the door in stores. And then there will be another 3 this year, including two will be first rounders. One, Stephon Castle, was not only a top 50 prospect, but a top 10 prospect. But then the other 2 were not. So that's 6 out of 7 draft picks in 3 years that were not top 50 guys when they arrived at UConn. That's an astonishing record. Dan's tremendous in just about every way you need to be tremendous as a coach, if not all of them. He's tremendous. So he'll have the opportunity to continue rolling with UConn. I like the idea that they talked about chasing a 3rd in a row because no one's done that except for Wooden. That would be quite an achievement, but it'll be harder this time. He doesn't have 2 first-rounders, 2 obvious first-rounders, one in his program, one on its way. This time he's going to have to be, perhaps even build more with guys who are not as high profile.
No doubt, but still one of the best in the business going back. I'm sure the rest of the Big East was thrilled when they got that news yesterday that Dan was going to stick around. Another week, Mike, another Caitlin Clark story for us. Last week we spent a lot of time on Caitlin, and we have to again now because the big news now is she was left off the Team USA women's roster that's going to be going over to Paris to play for a gold medal. Mike, should she have been on the team?
This is a perfectly justifiable decision if you want to justify it. There are a lot of ways you can. I mean, she's not one of the 12 best players in the WNBA yet. There are clearly other players who have been around longer, who have achieved more, etc. But you're not going to win the gold medal or lose it based on your 12th player. That's not going to happen. You're not going to lose it under any circumstance. You could take 6 and still win it and probably win by a lot. That's been the recent history. And when I say recent, I'm talking about the last quarter century of USA women's basketball in the Summer Olympics. They win every time. They win by a lot every time. So what this is a missed opportunity. The Christine Brennan reported, the terrific columnist she is, reported that the coaching structure was concerned that Caitlin Clark's fans would turn on the television and she wouldn't be playing a lot and they'd be upset. You know what they missed in that decision there, Mike? They'd have turned on the television. And what would they have seen? They'd have seen how awesome Asia Wilson is, how awesome Breanna Stewart is. If they didn't already know, they'd know. And I have to say, based on women's basketball audiences over the last 10 years, not everybody knows The audiences have not been huge. Now, the audiences for Caitlin Clark's WNBA games have been extraordinary, and it's allowed more attention to seep into the league. But you can't get enough attention. Mike, and please don't take this as equivalent. It's just a similar example. When Taylor Swift started showing up at NFL games and young people started turning off on the television to see her in the stands or in the boxes, that meant more people were watching NFL games, and they might decide they liked it. And some I'm sure did, and some I'm sure didn't. But that's the whole point. You draw more eyeballs to your product. If your product is an entertainment product, you want more people to see it. Not everybody's going to like it, but some will, and that will make a difference in your general audience. And that's the opportunity that the WNBA and USA Basketball missed by excluding Caitlin Clark.
I couldn't agree more, Mike. And the other thing that I can't get over is for decades, we have talked in both basketball and soccer when it comes to the Olympics about, adding some young talent at the bottom of the roster so they get that experience to eventually lead our team in future Olympics and be part of it all. So suddenly that gets thrown out the window for her. She doesn't need that. Everyone else has needed it over the years in these Olympic Games, but Caitlin Clark doesn't need it. Amazing, Mike. It really is. Mike, tremendous job as always. We will see you again next week here. Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, Coast to Coast. We're back after this.
Look at the stats. 5 out of the top 6 televised rated games on the WNBA this year all involve Caitlin Clark. The only one that doesn't was a second half of a doubleheader in which Caitlin Clark played the first game.
Only on SportsGrid.
8 playoff games at home for Boston in Beantown. They are 6-2 straight up.
The wild card, I would say, in this game is not necessarily, well, what are we going to get out of Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Brown, and certainly Tatum. It is Kristaps Porzingis to me, because we're not getting back a player that's like, hey, rotational guy. Like, remember when Derek Lively went down with an injury? He was playing well, but a young player, like a piece.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Garrett Cole's getting ready to come back too. I guess look, they've played great without him, but you're not going to say to Garrett Cole, look, don't come back. I mean, it's a ridiculous conversation to have.
They're not going to take any unnecessary chances. And look, they're at the point where they have a lead. They certainly are going to make the playoffs, I would say, barring some sort of complete collapse. And that's all it takes.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
If you're in the room, what are you doing with the Judge MVP number? Books are now 2-1, standalone favorite. What are you doing with the Judge number?
What do I do with the MVP? I let them bet Judge at what? Even money? Come on in. I mean, you have to acknowledge now that he's the guy.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
And we are back from Coast to Coast here on a Tuesday. Carver High and Joe Lisi in for Scotty on SportsGrid and SportsGrid Radio. Great to have everybody with us here today. Of course, BetMGM has got you ready for baseball season. How about their free-to-play swing for the fences promotion? Now, this thing is awesome. As me and Scotty have talked about a lot, I have been playing this every morning here on my BetMGM Sportsbook app. In fact, right before the show today, I wanted to make sure I got in a triple for me, which got me a nice boost token for tonight in Major League Baseball, so I'm excited. This is free to play from BetMGM. You got to go to your BetMGM Sportsbook app, iOS or Android. Account holders who play will have the opportunity to win a reward if they get a hit. Single, double, triple, home run, or a flyout is what you get when you play. Reward types include Parlay Boost Token, Odds Boost Token, SGP Boost Token, bonus bids in eligible casino states, and bonus bets. All rewards expire in 24 hours. BetMGM's free to play. Swing for the fences on your BetMGM Sportsbook app. Go and get involved. I will use it for a little tater time tonight, which we will get to later on here on C2C. Because then what we'll do, Joe, is then you get the tater time, and then we go another tater and we put it with the golf, right? I mean, that's how it is this week, especially for the U.S. Open. We want to make sure we have as much put it with the golf action as we can before they tee off on Thursday morning. All right, Joe, Game 2 Stanley Cup Final last night in South FLA. Panthers beat the Oilers 4-1. They take a commanding 2-0 lead up to Edmonton for Game 3 on Thursday night. Evan Rodriguez, Joe, we've talked about all these guys in this series, McDavid, Draisaitl, Reinhart, Tkachuk, Barkov, who got hurt last night, which we'll get to in a moment. But Evan Rodriguez has been the guy scoring the goals. He had 1 goal in the first game, 2 more last night, including this one that put the Panthers ahead for good early in the third on Panthers radio.
Now it's Oposo on the right side. Around the end boards, Evan Rodriguez here in the near circle. Looked to play it on net, couldn't get it through. Another try, a shot, he scores! Evan Rodriguez let it rip, and he beats Skinner short side. The Panthers have their first lead of the night. It's 2-1. What a laser of a wrist shot that was.
Gotta love the local radio call, Joe. That's where it's at. Get the local radio call involved there. I gotta tell you, Joe, the books have to be making a killing because everyone's playing the big names for these anytime goal scorers. All the guys I just mentioned, Verhaeghe you could throw in there as well. And last night you had Rodriguez scored 2. You had a couple defensemen. Ekholm scored for Edmonton. The other defenseman scored for Florida. Ekblad had the empty netter. So 3 defensemen scored last night, and Rodriguez had the other 2. Not good for the anytime goal market, Joe, if you were playing the big names.
No, except the one that I had, Forsling. Of course, he couldn't get involved.
So you played a defenseman to score an anytime goal. I think every defenseman except him scored. Nice job.
It's amazing. 7-1, though, Carver. They've been outscored. And after they get up 1-0, when they scored that goal 1-0, they only had 5 shots on goal. I mean, that is the problem right now for Edmonton. We're used to them playing fast and loose, getting a lot of shots, a lot of multiple opportunities, and they're far and few between. So tell me what's going to change when they go back to Edmonton. Bobrovsky's been very solid. Skinner, it looks like he's in the zone, but once he breaks and gives up 1, then all of a sudden he gives up bunches, 2, 3, and they're down 3-1. It's like by then it's over. So it's very imperative, I believe, for Edmonton not to just get up 1-0. They got to get up 2-0 at home. Hopefully they could put the pressure on Bobrovsky then. If not, if it trends to the under, I'm going to go with Florida to win game number 3 as well.
Joe, me and you kind of jokingly played Florida to sweep when I got all mad at the coach Knobloch for talking about the Bills last week.
We played it because we thought they were more blue collar, and they've been that way.
Well, look, I know I didn't give you the no shot on it, but it was also me kind of you know what, I'm going after this guy. And sure enough, it's got legs. It really does, especially if they continue to control the play and lock this game down like they have done here. But, they were different games, Joe. Edmonton pushed the pace in game number 1. They controlled the play. They had double the amount of shots, and Bobrovsky stood on his head. I thought last night was more the typical textbook Paul Maurice Florida Panther game, where they absolutely choked the other team out. They don't give him anything. Yes, Bobrovsky had to make some key saves, but I think you said it, Joe, and that's the story. They've scored 1 goal in 2 games, and they have way too much firepower for that to happen. Way too much firepower, and that's the story in this series.
I agree, and to your point about pushing pace in game 1. Game 1 is always, and you say this just as well as anybody, it's a feeling out process, right? So Edmonton did push the play. That is their style. But once Florida got accustomed to that, then in game 2, they were ready. And all of a sudden, they look like a fish out of water, the Oilers. So again, coming back home,
I don't know. Like, if you're Edmonton right now, do you want to go fast and loose, not get any shots, fall behind 1-0, and then all of a sudden, you don't even have the edge at goaltender? I know we said Skinner got them to this point, but the way Bobrovsky's played up until now, games, he is the more consistent goaltender.
Yeah, look, I think that Skinner, this has not been his fault these 2 games. Has Bobrovsky played better than him? Yes, that's true. But they haven't scored any goals, and that's what it comes down to with me. Here's Connor McDavid quickly, Joe. We'll fit him in. Says, what do you expect? It's not supposed to be this easy as we head home.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's exciting. It's another opportunity for our group to come together and dig our way out. It's supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be difficult. And I'm excited to see what our group's made of. I'm excited to see our group come together.
Well,
I'm excited to see us fight through adversity, and looking forward to people doubting us again.
Notice how his voice got all cracked.
We're good with the backs against the wall.
He's throwing it down himself.
To be fair, we play a lot of Connor McDavid clips here in these playoffs, basically because he never gives you anything. I actually thought he gave you a little something there. I'm excited to see how we respond. I'm excited to see the guys in this room. People are going to doubt us again. He actually gave you a couple of things where he didn't sound like a complete robot, which is a lot different from what we normally get from McDavid. All right, Joe, we'll come back. We'll hear from Maurice, and then I'll give you the numbers for Game 3 Thursday night in Edmonton as the series will shift way north. Ferrall Coast to Coast on a Tuesday. Carver High and Joe for Scotty. We're back after this.
Look at the stats. 5 out of the top 6 televised rated games on the WNBA this year all involve Caitlin Clark. The only one that doesn't was a second half of a doubleheader in which Caitlin Clark played the first game.
Only on SportsGrid.
8 playoff games at home for Boston in Beantown. They are 6-2 straight up.
The wild card, I would say, in this game is not necessarily, well, what are we going to get out of Luka Doncic, Kyrie Irving, Brown, and certainly Tatum. It is Kristaps Porzingis to me, because we're not getting back a player that's like, hey, rotational guy. Like, remember when Derek Lively went down with an injury? He was playing well, but a young player, like a piece.
The early line. Only on SportsGrid.
Garrett Cole is getting ready to come back too. I guess look, they've played great without him, but you're not going to say to Garrett Cole, look, don't come back. I mean, it's a ridiculous conversation to have.
They're not going to take any unnecessary chances. And look, they're at the point where they have a lead. They certainly are going to make the playoffs, I would say, barring some sort of complete collapse. And that's all it takes.
Newswire. Only on SportsGrid.
If you're in the room, what are you doing with the Judge MVP number? Books are now 2-1, standalone favorite. What are you doing with the Judge number?
What do I do with the MVP? I let them bet Judge at what? Even money? Come on in. I mean, you have to acknowledge now that he's the guy.
Game time decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
And we are back. Ferrall Coast to Coast here on a Tuesday. Carver High and Joe Lisi in for Scotty on SportsGrid at SportsGrid Radio. All right, Joe. One other thing that happened in that game last night between Edmonton and Florida was a couple of very questionable hits and penalties that were delved out. Me and you were on the radio when they gave Fogle the 5-minute major and threw him out for that knee-to-knee hit that he had in the first period, which gave the Panthers a 5-minute power play. You had a call the other way which was a minor penalty that maybe could have been a major, and I believe it was Bennett for Florida, that Knobloch went nuts on the bench for. And then in the third, you had Draisaitl with that hit to the head with Barkov, which honestly, Joe, and this was after we were done with radio, so I didn't get to hear your thoughts on it. I'm sure you saw it. The one that knocked Barkov out of the game, and there's still, I saw Maurice about an hour ago say there's no update on him, and with hockey you never get an update anyway. I didn't think there was a lot of intent there. The league is not going to suspend Draisaitl. People thought he should have got 5 minutes. I'm not quite sure that was the case. Here's Maurice, though, Joe, before I get your thoughts. They were kind of pressing him last night to say something bad about that Draisaitl hit, and Paul was not taking the cheese.
Paul, I do want to ask you about the evolution defensively of this team since you've arrived, but just quickly, because I think you're holding back. How do you feel about the hit on Barkov?
This isn't the Oprah Winfrey Show. My feelings don't matter.
So, I guess you're not going to get his thoughts, Joe. Now, by
feel
him
like
saying
you're holding
that,
back.
We've watched enough of these Paul Maurice pressers over the last 2 playoffs to know that he never has a problem speaking his mind. He's talked about hits. He's talked about clean hits, dirty hits, everything. For him to not say anything there, Joe, makes me think he thought that it was a bad one by him not showing his cards there.
Well, it's possible. I agree. That commentary and that comment tells you all you need to know. He's not going to get, down and muddy and dirty. His team's up 2-0. Why, give locker room or bulletin board material? I will say this. I saw the last one. The one that I thought was a problem, Carver, is when they had the 5-minute major, or there was another power play, and they gave a 2-minute to Tkachuk. That one that he barely touched him, that was the one like, stop now. Just because Florida was on the power play doesn't mean you have to make up for it and give her right back to Edmonton. It's still the game of hockey here. I mean, it's hit or be hit. We still have to keep that in mind. It's the playoffs. I mean, come on now. These ticky-tack penalties that they're going on is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, come on. The first one, the 5-minute major, we agreed. He did go into him, and he leaned with the knee. He stuck the knee right into the leg. That should have been a 5-minute. Right, it was a good call. Outside of that, I think you could have made it the argument that any other call throughout the rest of the game was ticky-tack for the most part.
Yeah, look, I thought Draisaitl deserved a penalty, Joe, on that play with Barkov. I thought it was worth a 2-minute infraction. I did not think that it was a major. I don't think, and I've seen people today who think that he should be suspended a game. I understand that Barkov's, he's probably not going to play, Joe. I mean, the way that they're being, although they're always secretive about this stuff, and so people correlate a guy getting injured, that means that the guy should be suspended. I think that that's happened a lot in the NHL, and it really isn't necessarily should be the case for it. And we'll see what happens with Barkov. They're going to play Thursday night in Edmonton for game number 3. Oilers are favored at minus $130, plus 110 for the Panthers. They're, of course, going to keep putting that 5.5 up there, Joe. I'm in a little bit of a wait-and-see mode, and this is probably going to wait all the way until an hour before a face-off, because I'm sure Maurice won't divulge the information. I kind of need to know if Barkov's playing, Joe, because he's so big for what they do before I go and say who I like and who I don't. But
stop.
I lean to Edmonton winning Game 3 at home.
You're gutless. You're gutless. You don't think the Panthers can steal one? You're gutless. The Panthers are going to rout them 4-0. This team is not blue collar.
See, this is where you get
no shot. No shot. No shot. Right. In Vinny V, I trust. This is it. Vinny V almost won the Belmont. He came a hair to Dornick. Dornick held him off with Mindscape. He's going to win. He's going to win it all. He's going to win the Stanley Cup.
For our coast-to-coast viewers and listeners, me and Joe had a locked-up card Friday night on Carver and Lisi for the Belmont Stakes on Saturday. We had 4 horses. We both bet all 4 of them. We were good to go. And for some reason, Joe decided 5 minutes before the race he was going to bet Dornock too. And he ends up going to the window. Coast to Coast, hour number 2. We're back after this.